Hi there, my name is Amir Yahubi and I'm glad to be with you again. This time I want to talk about drawing. I want to tell you something about drawing. Actually, here I wrote an introduction about drawing. Last time I talked about gesture drawing, and this time I want to add something as important as gesture, which is structure. So let's get started. And I have to tell you something about a process. When we ask what drawing is, the response is that drawing is a kind of translating process. What do I mean by translating? Look, here we work with a visual language. So everything that you see around you should be translated to something else, to be drawn on a 2D paper. And what are the tools that help you doing this? So you translate everything that you see, including figure, to what? 2D or 3D basic forms. Remember that primaries of design that I've talked about last session? Primaries of design was this: line, form, and mass. Last time we've talked about line and the effects that line could have in our drawing. And as you can see, this time we want to talk about form. Form gives us a kind of perception about what we're seeing. If you remember that circle, this is a line, okay? It's not a form. But when we make this side a little bit darker, it has more information to give us. It's not a line anymore, it's a form. We feel the space around, we feel the light that's coming this way. And we call it Chiaroscuro, which is light versus shadow. Light versus shadow. I've talked about them, so I do not break them down so much. You can watch the last video if you're interested. And mass. What is a mass? Mass is a 2D form, better to say, and it's light versus dark. It's not light versus shadow. Shadow and dark are different. Remember yin-yang sign? It just gives us a perception where is dark and where is light. But here maybe we can feel the volume that's involved here. You see? And we call this one notan. And this one Chiaroscuro. So that's it. I just wanted to tell you where we are in primaries of design. We've talked about line a little bit. Today I want to talk about form and maybe mass, because we're considering to do form as well. So let's move on and talk more about basic forms. What's your opinion about basic forms? I say that basic forms, 2D forms, are circle, triangle, and square. That's it. 2D primary forms. This is 2D. And when we want to give it a kind of volume, we make it 3D. Here we've got 3D basic forms as well. Sphere, cylinder, and cube or a box. So these are 3 basic forms that we work with. So everything that you see around you should be translated to these primary forms. So drawing, as you can see, is a process of translating things to another thing. So it's called design. When you're thinking about something, you're designing it. You know, you're not just drawing like this carelessly, and you're thinking about it, you're translating. Your work has a kind of procedure, so it's design. That's it. And I can tell you more points, and I can break it down a little bit. Before that, let me tell you something here. Generally, we can divide and separate drawing to 2 major ideas. Which they are synonymous. I mean, they work together. They're not really separated and isolated. Here we have gesture, the movement inside the form, And then we've got structure. They're not living things, but funny to say maybe. They have a kind of symbiotic relationship with each other. And for example, when you're drawing gesture, in the meantime, you have to think about structure as well. It's really important because you have to reach a kind of harmony in your work that has gesture and structure together. A work that hasn't structure is not good. And when you're focusing, for example, on gesture too much, you will lose your volume, sense of volume, and the viewer won't find any volume in your work. So be careful about it. So when we say gesture, we are working with line. As a design, we have to design gesture with lines. But when we are talking about structure, we are talking about form and mass mostly. Okay, so structure is what I talked about here. This part. When you're translating something to a form or mass, when you're translating something to a form or mass, actually you're thinking about structure and you're considering it. And if I want to put mass here, mass would be these 3, and 4 could be this one. Because it's form dominant and this one is shape dominant. I mean, it's 2D. So structure, as a sign, I draw primary forms and volumes. That's it. I hope you get it. I try to simplify it for you. And next, I can break it down more for you and tell you something about primary, secondary, and tertiary forms. And a general rule that helps you keep the harmony and melody in your work, which is the rule of whole to parts. I'll talk about it more. So here, first you learn very simple forms. So you can't draw anything with these 3. Therefore, you have to do something else. You have to add them up together. You can, for example, add a sphere to a cylinder, then add a box to it. So it would be a form. And third one could be, for example, another shape that you've got here. For example, this one. A box and a sphere which is attached to it. And then you have to add it with the second one to have a new shape. You know what I'm talking about. And in the figure drawing, the procedure is the same. For example, we want to work or draw an arm. You won't have to draw contours or another forms that are really too much detailed. You have to work with basic forms, then develop it and evolve it. It's not a good way to be in a hurry and draw everything that you see really hasty, in a hasty way. So that's it, and let's talk about here primary, secondary, and tertiary forms. You have to keep this procedure, and on the other hand, I've talked about whole and parts, a rule, an important rule. Which is, whenever you want to draw, you have to start with a general shape, which is a whole, two details, two parts. So if you want to draw an arm, do not start with fingers, then go back to upper arm. You know, it would destroy your drawing. I don't recommend that. The easiest way to draw is to work first with a kind of whole, then go to parts. That's it. Okay, I've prepared a picture, an artwork by Michelangelo to show you how to translate what you're saying to what I've told about you. Actually, how to design what you're saying, how to design it to lines, gesture, and structure. So, two basic ideas of drawing is gesture and structure. Everything is a subordinate to gesture and structure. I mean anatomy or etc.